What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Wall. Today we're reviewing the Bad Batch episode 4, and it is called Racing. Sorry, it's not called Racing, it's called
Faster.
Faster.
Now this is pod
It's about
racing.
racing. Yeah. So I'll be one of your hosts today. My name is Bogz with Soul. How do you feel about
Hello,
this episode,
hello.
Soul? And how you doing, of course?
Doing good. This episode was just another regular episode, kind of like the first two. Which I'm okay with. This kind of the animated stuff. You're gonna have some really great episodes like episode 3, and then every once in a while you're gonna have just okay, like fun to watch. My niece is gonna enjoy type episodes.
Yeah, really nothing much happened, especially
Mm.
after the last episode, which was just like, for me, the best ever Batch episode. One of the best animated things in Star Wars I've seen, like a top 10 ranking thing. Cody's such an interesting character. And then to shift to this, yes, it was a bit disappointing, but it wasn't a bad episode. It's a kind of traditional, expected Filoni filler kind of thing, mid-season, almost episode. But we've had like 3 of them now out of 4 episodes, which is a little concerning. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. Obviously, they were involved with the whole kind of racing game, a bit similar to what happens in episode 1 with the Bunty Classic and stuff. And then we get to meet obviously a few different characters and the underworld stuff. So there was stuff within there that we'll talk about. But was any standout things in this episode for you? Some highlights?
The attitude on the droid Teo, like
Mm-hmm.
those moments where there was just it got a little giggle. It wasn't a full on like laugh out loud, but like a
Right.
little giggle here. And I guess I was watching when the start of this episode and we're back at Sid's and it's like, oh, this is filler. I kind of watched it in the eyes of like my niece instead of like, how would a 5-year-old be watching this? And I was like, oh, she'd be laughing at these moments right here with that droid. So I guess in a way, I kind of maybe enjoyed the episode a little bit more because I was like, okay, take away adult brain, let's do 5-year-old brain.
It's funny that you can switch your brain to a 5-year-old. Wow, that's like a talent. I kind of didn't like the droid, to be honest. It was only because he was a little too modern, meaning like, yeah, it just felt like it was a funny sidekick in
Yeah.
like a modern sci-fi thing. Yeah, his dialogue was a little too on the nose and just a little too modern and modern day for me.
Definitely could get annoying if
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
there longer.
Yes, and he got killed a few times and still kept
Yeah.
coming back. But I actually did like the racing a little bit. Obviously it's I believe there were speeders. They said like souped up speeders. So it was cool to see some of that. The graphics in CG and what they could do. Obviously it's similar to the pod racing, but with weaponry as well. And
Yeah.
they could take each other out and things. So yeah, that was interesting. And I did actually like the slight bit of underworld stuff that we've got, because we still to this day haven't really touched the what I consider to be underworld gangster stuff. Like when someone says underworld in Star Wars, for some reason I think something like someone or type of people that will work with Jabba the Hutt. That's my example.
Yeah.
The type of scum that he would work with. So we see that in the Clone Wars, for example, but we haven't seen it in live action yet. I mean, people think we've seen it in Andor. Not for me, not at all. They're a bit too straight laced and procedural. Too many uniforms, basically. And they tried to do it in Book of Boba Fett, but it just really didn't come off well. So this guy, I did kind of like him. Everything was kind of dimly lit. Even when he held Sid in that room when they're watching the race, and he like crossed his leg as he's sitting on the sofa, just waiting for the result to happen, to see if he, to see if they come good on their bet on their double or quit. So I did kind of like him, and yeah, they were my standouts. We did also learn a few things from this episode. We learned that Sid is not to be trusted,
Yeah.
or she has like an extremely
She
shady
has a past.
background. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did that entail? Was it something to do with Order 66 in some roundabout way? Was it with separatists? Was it in this underworld? Was it with did something to sell out a Jedi? Who knows? But I'm sure that story will not only be relevant to the Bad Batch, it will tie into the overall plot as well, and make it not, hopefully anyway, not just a side mission or a filler thing, and make it a significant point there. So yeah, what do you think about Sid's kind of controversial background?
This episode definitely made Sid more interesting because before this episode, she's just the kind of employer, you guess, of like these missions to be able to provide the Bad Batch with money because they need that to survive. So she kind of was just like this background character that's like, okay, you're going to pretty much live in my bar and I'm going to send you off to go do things. And so you get the little like, because of the nature of where she is and the missions that she gives, that there's like a little bit of scum and villainy that's happening, but you really get a little bit more of her backstory or who she could be in this episode. And so I hope we explore that more. I hope it's not just left at what was like done in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. And the second thing we learned was just how astute and smart Tech is.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we did already know that, but just how switched on he is and how he can figure out plans. And I'm sure we'll see that later on in the series about how that will come into play more. Um, Obviously, we're going to need them skills and that he's gotten to figure things out. We saw him kind of in the first season. Well, we saw him showing the others how proficient he is, and obviously the newest recruit, the girl, I've got her name. What's her name?
The new not Omega. You
Yeah, Omega. Yeah.
yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
was like, she's technically, I don't consider her a new recruit. I was like, Omega.
Well, yeah, the girl, the little girl. Yeah. Omega. Yeah, we saw her in the first season, kind of being not mentor, but like her kind of shadowing him. And showing the ship plans. I think it's in the first episode as well. She's looking at the ship plans, and
Yeah.
he told her to make sure she's studying and stuff. So we're going to see that
Mhm.
come further down the line and what relevance that has. Also, obviously, we didn't see the other Bad Batch guys, whether it's Hunter and them guys as well. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Tech and on Omega in this episode, and the other guys that were missing?
Did you notice it was the same split that happened when they split up in the first two episodes? That we
True.
have the Hunter and Echo going off, and then we have the group of Wrecker, Tech, and Omega. So I don't know if they're gonna continually do that, where that's the split where you have those three and then those two. Weird to not have Echo in this episode because I did predetermine that he's going to be the morality of this season. So 2 episodes without Echo in it, I kind of want to see him back. But yeah, there is this kind of relationship that Tech and Omega and Wrecker are having together that seems a little bit closer than what she has with Hunter or Echo, whereas last season she was, I believe, like the closest to Hunter. So it's going to be interesting to see how that each relationship she has with each Bad Batch member will form and like where it will go in this season.
Yeah, I really want to see what's going on with Cody as well.
Yeah.
Is he looking like there's so many theories because he's such an interesting character, is he going to go for Rex? Because from what I remember, I believe he outranks Rex as well,
Yeah.
or from the Clone Wars and stuff. So is he going to go after Rex, or will it be the Bad Batch? Potentially team with Ahsoka and Rex, or obviously a long shot is Obi-Wan, but that's because obviously they're both alive, and maybe redemption, because obviously because we know that clones were brought up to be honorable, and and I think we saw his contradiction within the last episode to see that they did this mission and they killed on this mission without any Jedi there. So this current iteration of the Empire or the Republic, we saw that it wasn't what he previously was serving, and
Yeah.
with all the principles, and did he kind of turn on his on the generals, the Jedi, was it the right thing to do? I think we saw that within him. So I'm really hoping the Bad Batch characters come into contact somehow with Cody here, and we have more of him in the story. So, what do you think? Next episode or next few episodes? What's the theories?
I feel that if Cody's coming back, it's going to be a few episodes down the line, maybe even the later episodes of the season. I think we need some time. What will be some time away from what happened last episode. So it's because this show is called The Bad Batch, and as much as I love Cody and I want to see him and see his story, and last episode was my favorite of the season and could possibly be my favorite of all the Bad Batch episodes, I do want to see the Bad Batch having as strong as episodes as like last week's, but with the actual Bad Batch. So hopefully, like, we can focus on their stories and see something that was as good as last week. But going to this week's episode, did you notice that trope that always happens? You make a bet, you lose, and you're like double or nothing, and then you end up winning, and that's every single. The second that like before they even said double nothing, I was like, there's going to be another race, and they're going to double or nothing, and they're going to win. So it was very predictable this episode.
Sure, yeah, it's like the last chance for the hero, always, because the scum and villainy guy is always going to double. He's always going to gamble, so for more money, to make him rich or whatever. And I did kind of like the way that they stick to the scumbag code of okay, a deal's a deal, you can go, because when that guy tried to pick up his blaster,
right,
he kind of grabbed him and said, I kind of
like that. I like that. Yeah.
So you're right. Obviously, we all know they were going to survive that, but for me, it was interesting to see how they were going to do it. Meaning that what was Tech planning, what was he studying, what strategy was he referring to, and that kind of thing, and how the actual race would play out. That kind of thing. So that's why it's a fun filler episode. It's not too thought provoking or emotional in any way, but yeah, it was okay. I mean, I don't have any. It wasn't a bad episode in any way at all. But final thoughts. So before we get out of here,
that race is definitely going to be now in a video game. Calling it. But maybe get another pod racing game instead of like they had for N64, but now for what the consoles are here. But yeah, just a normal, regular Star Wars animated episode that's not top tier in any ways, but still enjoyable.
Yeah, obviously big storylines potentially to come this season. Big arcs. With Crosshair or Cody or the rest of the Bad Batch. We'll see. And now Sid, she could be knee deep with them as well, in trouble. So we'll see. Please, everyone, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Join us every week. We're reviewing every episode this season, and we'll catch you on the next review.